over here doing an exhibition of my work as a cartoonist, talking about the human rights crisis in my country, in Nicaragua, and sharing with the people what is happening down there through my work. The situation in Nicaragua, basically, it's a human rights crisis caused by the dictatorship of Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo. They have been in power since 2007, and they won't let go the presidency. And they have been, doing a lot of shady things at the beginning, and then doing even worse things every year since they came back into power. Right now, they control all the branches of the government. They have full control of the electoral institution. They have full control of the system of justice. They have full control of the Congress, and of course, they have full control of the presidency. So there is no balance of power in my country. It's basically, it is a dictatorship. But beyond that, it's a very, violent. For longer than that, actually, because they started killing people, or the army started killing people way before that. But it was on the countryside of Nicaragua. But since April last year, because of the protests that began because of reform to the Social Security law, people took the streets to protest against this, and the answer of the government since the very beginning, it was to start killing people, shooting these people in the protests, and so far they have killed, I don't know, maybe 400 people. Some people say that maybe even 500 people, but there are many hundreds of disappeared who nobody knows where they are. And there are thousands of people exiled in different countries because of the situation, and hundreds of people have been put in jail.
You worked for Confidential, I understand.
I work for confidencial.com.me. Yeah, you can see my work in there, and that's part of the very few still standing independent media in Nicaragua. We had our newsroom taken over by the forces of the dictatorship December 2018. They got into the middle of the night. December 13, they got into our newsroom, and they took away everything they could get their hands on. Everything, computers, microphones, recorders, paper, everything. And then they left. So the next day, my colleagues went into the newsroom to find anything to work with. So the idea of the dictatorship, it was to stop us producing confidencial.com.me and the TV shows that we also put out, which is Esta Noche and Esta Semana. So what my colleagues did is that everybody went to borrow computers from somebody else and keep doing what they were doing journalism. So they came back that very same day, always in the middle of the night, and took possession of the actual building. So as we are speaking right now here, they are still inside our building. And so basically the building is confiscated, and Confidential is being produced by some people from the inside Nicaragua and some people from outside Nicaragua, putting all the information together and keeping the site alive that way. Yeah, I had support from some international organizations, professional cartoonist organizations who are international, and also some journalism international organizations who helped me to get out of the country when I needed. Because after they did this with our newsroom, 1 week later, they did the same with another of the few still standing independent media outlets, which it was the 100% Noticias TV station. They did the same thing. They got into the middle of the night and they took possession of the building, but this time there was two journalists still inside, Miguel Mora and Lucia Pinedo Wow, and they got them and put them into jail, and they charged them with a promotion of terrorism, and they ended up being in jail for 6 months until, because of national and international pressure, they were taken out of the jail with a very big number of political prisoners. But there are still, I think, 172 to this day, political prisoners are still on the jails of the regime. We have been trying to get the attention of the international community, because we do really need that the international community to put pressure on the government to be able to change something, because we have been trying from inside and trying very hard, and that's the reason there are so many people who have been killed, for protesting. But we also need the help of the international community, and it hasn't been easy to get it. And some things have happened. The USA government has put some sanctions to some individuals of the government, but we are still waiting for the European Union to do the same. They promised this months ago, and they still haven't done anything. So we are really, really hoping that they will finally do something about this. But the idea is, of course, not to punish the people. The idea is to punish the people, or Daniel Ortega, Rosario Murillo, who are the ones who have been killing and oppressing Nicaragua. And they can do that and help us to put more pressure on them for they to accept a new electoral institution who will allow us to have a fair election. Came into power, there were 9 commanders in charge of the country. And then between those 9 commanders, they had to elect somebody to run for president in 1984. And the funny thing is that there were so many huge egos between those 9 commanders. So to avoid any trouble, they kind of picked between them, the one who wasn't, the most, he picked the one who they thought will not give them any problem, all right? Just to avoid a fight of the biggest egos between the commanders group. So that's why they chose Ortega, ironically. And it wasn't because he was the smartest one, or because he was the bravest one, or because he wasn't, because he doesn't even know how to speak in public. That's the truth. But that's the reason he was picked.
Yeah.
And he ended up believing himself as a leader. We have to remember that after 2007, when he came back into power, thanks to a pact with the extreme right leader, corrupt leader, Ronaldo Alemán, when he came back into power in 2007, one of the first things he did, he tried to rewrite the history of the revolution, putting out murals and museums where you will only see his pictures on the front, in the 70s, but you will not see the rest of the commanders, like they will never existed, So that's just a little bit of example of how he sees himself and what his game is in this. Yeah, he still likes to play, and as a left leader, socialist, whatever he wants to call himself. But the truth is that his government has been following the neoliberal economic politics better than any other of the past governments in 1990. And the fact is that he is a millionaire, he lives as a millionaire, and he as his family, they control most of the biggest TV and radio stations in the country. They bought them all with the money they got from Venezuela. And many of his kids run these TV stations and radio stations themselves. So it's all a family business. They are no longer a FSLN party. This is the Ortega Murillo party. there are outside people who still think, that what is going on in Nicaragua has some any kind of resemblance to what it was in the 80s or when Somoza was kicked out of power. But right now, there is nobody closer to Somoza in historic terms than Daniel Ortega. In the 80s, we had a civil war in Nicaragua, and we were the playground for the Soviet Union and the USA. The Soviet Union was funding the Sandinista government, the Sandinista army, and providing guns and AK-47s and all that stuff. And then on the other side, there was the Reagan government in the U.S. who was funding the Contras, who were fighting against this army. So we end up with thousands of deaths of Nicaraguans who were killing each other because these two countries were just using us to play their game, their Cold War game, which it wasn't cold in Nicaragua. It was very hot. So, and then later, now, when he came back into power in 2007, he had the full support of Hugo Chavez's government from Venezuela, having millions of dollars from the oil business getting into Nicaragua without any control. They will do whatever they want with that money. So, of course, they put most of that money in their pockets and made themselves millionaires. And all this was happening while the U.S. wasn't paying attention because there was this kind of pact with the U.S. that Daniel Ortega will help stop drug traffic and the immigrants who were trying to get across Nicaragua to go to the U.S. He will try to stop all those things in exchange of the U.S. letting him do whatever he wanted. So it was until this human rights crisis started back last April 2018 that things really changed, but because it became harder and harder to justify supporting or not acknowledging what this government was doing with the people. And it was the same thing with the big capital in my country, with the bankers and everything. They were very happy with Ortega until last April. They kind of had some kind of pact also, which allowed them to get richer and richer. Always they didn't mess with how Ortega was governing. So it was everything went that way until last April when the killings started, and the killings changed everything. So, yeah.
And China?
China, oh my God. I don't know about the government of China, but I could say that a few years ago, Daniel Ortega and his party, they passed a law in the Congress to give rights to a very shady Chinese businessman, Wang Jing, who promised that he will do an international canal through Nicaragua. And of course, it was all fake. I never thought they would ever do this project, but they would use that law to take the land, the most valued land in Nicaragua, from the hands of the peasants and the small farmers through the whole country. I have been working as a cartoonist since I was 17. Yeah, so I have been doing this for way more than 20 years now. Yeah, I started working as a cartoonist when Violeta Barrios was still president. And then Arnoldo Alemán came in, and I was very critical of the government of Alemán. And then Bolaños, and I was very critical of all that period. And then came Ortega into power again, and I was very critical of him. I mean, it has been that way. I have won some prizes since last year because of my work in Nicaragua, and also internationally. I won the Cartoonist Rights Network Courage in Cartooning Award 2018. And then I won the Excellence in Journalism from the Inter-American Press Society last year also. And that was for international cartoons, actually. And I won this year the Maria Morse Cabot Award from Columbia Journalism University.
And you're working together with organizations like Cartoon Network.
I have been working together with cartoonist associations in several countries, and also international associations. For example, I am a member of AAAC, which is the American Editorial Cartoonist Association. I am also a member of, which is based in the U.S. I'm also a member of Cartoon Club, which is a pretty much similar organization, but just for Latin American cartoonists. And I'm also a member of Cartoonists for Peace, which is based in Europe. And I also work with Cartoonist Rights Networks International to help promote the defense of human rights of cartoonists all around the world. Yeah.
Situation of cartoonists is not easy at the moment.
It has been very difficult for many, many years now, basically because of three reasons. First one is the newspaper crisis all over the world. You have to remember that the newspapers used to be the natural environment for a cartoonist to exist. But with many of the newspapers all around the world closing, cartoonists, lost their jobs and they have no other places to go. And another reason is that we have these problems, like in Nicaragua, that we have a dictatorship, and in some other countries that these people, this kind of authoritarian leaders, they don't like humor, they don't like cartooning, So it is very difficult for that reason also. And the third reason is that there is this way of political correctness, all around the world, that it makes very hard for us cartoonists, because we work with satire, we work with humor, and there is always the chance that somebody will get angry over a cartoon of ours. So many intolerant people or organizations use the excuse of political correctness to put censorship, to us. So these are very difficult times, which is ironic because this should be the golden times of cartooning. I mean, everybody right now is trying to get some kind of media that will allow you to spread fast, to become viral, like they want to say with social media. And cartooning can give you information, can give you entertainment, can give you, analysis. They can give you art, and in a very, very, very efficient way, in a very easy format to become viral. So this should be the golden age of cartoon. And the problem is that cartoons are more popular right now than ever. But the problem is that how you make a living out of it when there is no outlets who will, take the risk of hiring a cartoonist to work for them.
You worked at, you won a prize, and Jonathan Shapiro did the same, and Ramon. I got the Courage in Cartooning Award 2018. Ramon Esono, a colleague from Guinea Equatorial, got it in 2016. And Shapiro from South Africa got it in 2002. Yeah. So that's nice that you have that kind of relations. You also met them?
Yeah, I met Shapiro back in 2002 when he went to the U.S. to get this award. And I haven't met in person Ramon, but we have shared space and in some places where actually also I did a comic strip about his case when he was taken, and put in jail by the government of Obi-Wan in Guinea Equatorial. So I did this comic strip
to try to bring attention to his case and try to explain what was the reason that he was put in jail. And we translated that strip to several languages to raise as much as awareness about that case as I could do it. So yeah, it's a funny thing. Yeah.
And why is it still important to continue making cartoons?
I think they are more important now than ever, but because people is losing their sense of humor, the sense of criticism, because they tend to think that maybe it's better just to stay quiet, because that way they will not have problems with their governments, or maybe because nobody will go after them in the social media if they say something controversial and everything. So the role of a cartoonist, let's say more general way of a cartoonist in this society, is to keep showing that these behaviors are not normal. They shouldn't be normal, and pointing out the people who are very hypocrite. I don't know how to say it in English.
Hypocrites, yeah.
That's the word. About the way they behave, because they are always going after a cartoonist for doing a job while they are allowing worse things to happen without any consequences. So it's very important to keep exposing the corruption and the abuses of power, but also this growing feeling in the general population of lack of empathy for what is happening around them, or kind of a lot of people are just like giving up any hope about anything or any possibility to change. And it's also our duty to give hope that people, to make them think that we could change things if we really, really want to.